Today, I'm going to show you how to make and can homemade applesauce. Make sure you stay tuned because I'm going to show you how to do it without any coring or peeling. We were given 3 cases of apples from some friends and we decided that we wanted to make applesauce. You can use fresh picked apples, you can use apples you buy from an orchard or even the grocery store. Wherever you get apples, you can use them to make sauce. The first step is going through and sorting everything. Some of them had some bad spots that I could tell went all the way through, especially this guy. You do not want to put them in your applesauce. The majority of the bad spots are just surface level things, maybe a little rotten spot here and there, and that is all things that we can deal with the wonderful machine that we are going to use to make our applesauce. I like to use cold water and distilled white vinegar to clean my apples. So I got to filling up my sink, and you want to add a good amount of white vinegar, especially if you're like me and I did multiple sink loads here of apples, so make sure to add enough to get them really clean. If you do use store-bought apples, they will have a wax on them, so you'll want to let them sit in the vinegar and make sure you wipe them off really well and clean for a long time. I usually clean them about 5 to 10 minutes, just until I'm done with the next process. You will want to make sure to add any extra water or vinegar if you want that the apples are covered and floating, so you can swoosh them all around in there and get everything into all the nooks and crannies. As you're working with them, they keep soaking longer too, so as I was cutting, I would give them a good swoosh here and there. All we have to do is cut them into fourths. Quarter the apples, skins on, seeds in, everything all together. This amazing machine that we have, this is it. Cut them into fourths, no peeling required. It is amazing. Every once in a while when you cut, you will have a bad little spot like this, but the majority of that apple is still so great, so perfect to use. All you have to do is cut out that little bad spot, put it in your compost, chicken, pig bowl you have on the side. They'll get a special treat and you still have plenty of good apples to use to make your sauce. So I'll fill the stock pot with a little bit of water about halfway, and then you want to get it on your stove and just cook it long enough until the apples are nice and soft. And this is our machine, our Weston. It is the Weston strainer. It is absolutely amazing. It made applesauce in about 10 minutes going through all the apples that we had. It has, I believe, a gallon-sized hopper. We do have a link down below in the description for it if you're interested. You could fill this thing all the way up. It was our first time using it, so I was a little hesitant to fill it as full as I could. But you just want to add your apples in, and then you use the tamper to just guide everything down. You don't want to push too hard, and as you're tamping it down, you do use the handle to spin it and turn it, and out comes beautiful, glorious, the most perfect textured applesauce I have ever had. All of the skin, the seeds, the core, stems, any of those blemishes come out on the pulp side, and you are just left with amazing, strange, beautiful applesauce. The texture of it, it was applesauce texture, but it was just different. It tasted so good, and we didn't add any extra sweetener or anything. Just, I am amazed at how well this machine does and how fast it worked, and it's so easy to put together and take apart and clean. It was wonderful. Oh, here goes our first batch into the stock pot, and it was already very late at night. So we got our stock pot filled up with all kinds of delicious applesauce, and then we actually stuck the stock pot in the fridge overnight so we could go to bed and get started on canning the next morning. You want to warm up your applesauce. I probably had it a little bit too hot here, but that's okay because it still worked out great. So you want to get it hot. I'm using the Ball Home Preserving book and the applesauce recipe. I followed it and did omit the sugar as it said it was optional. I was canning outside on my propane burner, so I've got all my supplies set up here. Tried to be as organized as I could to make the process as fast as I could. We had a lot of bugs, sweat bees, so I was trying to keep things covered up and sanitary. I'm using this big stock pot to heat up my jars so I can get them to be the same temperature as the applesauce. And then the water is also heating up in the pressure canner that I will be using as a water bath canner. You want to keep everything the same temperature when you're going to can. So when your jars are all heated up, you are going to want to start taking them out slowly. Don't rush through it. There's hot water, there is slippy jars, all kinds of things. Just go nice and slow, take your time. I am newer to canning and I feel comfortable water bath canning now after doing a couple different items. It's not bad. It's just one of those things that you have to do it a few times, and once you do, it's wonderful how fast you'll get used to it and feel comfortable with it. So the next step is filling up the jars. I did already add the lemon juice previously from the recipe. So when you get your jars filled up, each recipe will tell you the headspace that you want to have. So there's this handy little tool, and we'll have a link down below to all these tools with the funnel, the jar lifter, the headspace measurer. We'll have a link to those down below, and you want to have it the correct headspace that your recipe says that it is. So here I did a little low, so I added a smidge more to make sure we were good. And then you want to wipe your rims. You can wipe them multiple times, especially with this. I did. You don't want anything on that rim to get in the way of getting a good seal. You really want to make sure you get it super clean before you put your lid on and screw your ring down. So I used to not be too sure, and I would see a lot of people ask too what finger tight means, because you want to tighten your ring finger tight. You don't want to crank it too hard and you don't want it to be too soft. Finger tight, what I've realized means is literally just tightening it with your fingers until your wrist starts to turn. So when your wrist starts to turn, when you're tightening the ring, that's when you stop. And I haven't had any issues, fails, or anything by doing that. So now my water is heated up, everything's all nice and hot, so I get to add the jars to the pressure canner that I'm using as a water bath canner. So you don't want to have your water all the way too high, because when you add the jars, it will displace the water. And you want to have, I believe it's 1 to 2 inches above the top of the jar. So I just topped off a little bit here with some water I had outside with me to make sure it would be good. And I'm not pressure canning, just a water bath canner here, so no reason to screw the lid on tight. I can just set it on top till we get to rolling boil and set our timer. Once everything's done, you do want to remove the lid to let them cool a bit. They don't need to be completely cool all the way. And as I was waiting for them to cool, I tried to visit with my buddy Charlie, but he was a little bit bored by my activities and decided to take a cat nap. Well, once the temperatures come down a bit, you are good to take your jars out. Don't tilt them, don't shake them, just pull them straight up and take them right over to a nice clean dish towel. You always want to set them down on a clean dish towel and not directly on a surface, because the temperature of whatever surface you are using could put too much of a shock temperature difference on your jars. So always just get a clean dish towel out there, set them down. And this is the result of our 3 cases of apples. So I ended up canning 13 quart jars of applesauce out of those 3 cases of apples that we got, which is phenomenal. With 2 toddlers, we go through quite a bit of applesauce, as you can imagine. Don't be scared of trying something new. There's all kinds of information out there. Make sure that you read and go by your specific canner's manual. There will be instructions in there, tell you step by step what to do. The best way to do it is just go out there and try it yourself. Let us know down below some of the first things that you canned when you were learning how to do it. Be sure to check out one of these videos next. Thank you for watching, and remember to live free and find your purpose.